Sprawled on the chilly kitchen tiles, I clutched my abdomen, feeling a sharp agony radiate through me as if a blade twisted within. My young daughter Kathryn stood nearby, her face etched with fright. "Mommy, are you okay?" she asked in a tremulous whisper. Despite the searing pain, I forced a calm tone. "I'll be fine, sweetheart. It's just a bad stomach ache," I lied, trying to shield her from the severity of my condition. The sound of footsteps approached. My husband Willie appeared at the doorway, annoyance rather than concern shaping his features. He was geared up for his journey, suitcase in hand. "What's happening, Amy? Why are you on the floor?" he asked, his tone more irritated than alarmed. "I think it's appendicitis, Willie. It's really severe. We need to go to the hospital," I gasped, each word laced with pain. He scoffed dismissively. "Appendicitis? You're probably just overreacting. It's likely just indigestion." I attempted to argue, but a sharp stab of pain silenced me. Willie glanced at his watch, his impatience palpable. "I can't miss this trip with Carol. Just call a taxi or something," he suggested with a dismissive wave. My disbelief at his lack of empathy grew as I tried to speak again. "Willie, I can't even move. Kathryn's here. I need you," I pleaded, desperation heavy in my voice. He shook his head, unmoved. "It's probably nothing. Call if it gets worse." With that, he left, his suitcase trailing behind him. I lay there, pain racking my body, with only Kathryn for comfort. Her small hands found mine, tears in her eyes. "Mommy, don't be sick. You have to be okay," she sobbed. Gathering the remnants of my strength, I pulled her close. "I'm here, darling. Mommy's here." With Willie gone, urgency gripped me. My hands trembled as I reached for my phone and dialed the one person I knew would come, my brother Russell. The phone rang, shattering the silence of the kitchen. "Hello?" Russell's voice was a beacon of hope. "Russell, it's Amy. I need help. I think it's appendicitis. I can't move." I rushed out the words, each one a struggle against the pain. As Kathryn clung to me, her fear palpable, I struggled to form each word. "And Kathryn is scared," I managed to convey, my voice breaking. After a moment of silence, Russell's voice came through the phone, calm and reassuring. "I'm on my way, Amy. Hold tight, I'll be there soon." Resting on the cold tile floor, I shut my eyes, trying to withstand the sharp pain that coursed through me. Kathryn stayed close, her small presence a slight comfort amidst the chaos. In that moment, a resolute feeling took root within me. Willie's neglect in such a critical time was not just hurtful, it was a profound betrayal that marked a pivotal shift in our relationship. As I awaited Russell's arrival, one thing became crystal clear. Things were bound to change. Later in the hospital bed, surrounded by the sterile walls and the rhythmic beeping of machines, a tranquil calm enveloped me. The surgery to remove my inflamed appendix was successful, but the emotional wound Willie had inflicted lingered. I had called my parents to look after Kathryn while I recuperated. Their voices brimmed with concern, and their unasked questions about Willie's absence weighed heavily in the air. 2 days later, I returned home, the physical pain now just a dull ache, a faint echo of what had transpired. Kathryn's joy at seeing me again was a bright spot. "Mommy, you're back. Are you all better now?" Her innocent question warmed my heart. "I'm getting there, sweetie," I replied, embracing her tightly, thankful for her comforting presence. However, our peaceful reunion was abruptly disrupted the next day by the loud slam of the front door. Willie and his sister Carol burst in, frustration evident in their voices. "Why didn't you pick us up yesterday? We had to pay extra for a taxi and train fares." Willie's accusatory tone filled the room as he strode into the living room. A surge of anger welled up inside me at his audacity. "Welcome back. Must have been quite a journey," I responded coldly, meeting his gaze. Willie stopped, taken aback by my frosty reception. Even Carol seemed surprised by the palpable tension. "What's with the attitude, Amy?" Willie demanded. I couldn't hold back any longer. "While you were enjoying your trip." While I stood in the living room, my voice was calm yet charged with anger. I was in the hospital, I explained, glaring at Willie and his sister Carol, whose demands often pulled him away from his family responsibilities. Carol's face turned red, and Willie looked genuinely confused. "What are you talking about? You're fine, right?" he asked dismissively. "It's not just about being okay, Willie. It's about being there when your family needs you," I retorted, and my frustration reached its peak. Before Willie could respond, the door swung open, revealing Russell, our parents, and Willie's parents, eyes filled with varying shades of anger and disappointment fixed on Willie and Carol. Willie's voice trembled as he asked, "Why is everyone here?" His usual confidence faded under their intense scrutiny. Taking a deep breath, I gathered my strength to articulate the hurt and betrayal. "Willie, you left Kathryn and me alone when we needed you the most. I was in the hospital and you weren't there. I've told everything to our families." Willie seemed to shrink, his typical bravado nowhere to be seen. His eyes darted around seeking an ally, but he found none. "It's not just about this incident, Willie. It's about all the times you've put Carol before your own family," Russell chimed in, his tone heavy with disappointment. Carol, usually confident, now appeared uneasy, her eyes shifting between the floor and the upset faces surrounding her. Willie tried to defend himself, scrambling for excuses and justifications, but the room was thick with tension. For me, this was a decisive moment. I realized I couldn't continue living overshadowed by Willie's neglect. It was time for change, time to stand up for myself and protect Kathryn. The meeting ended without any resolution, but for me, it marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would no longer tolerate being overlooked. The message from the day's events was unambiguous. I had the unanimous support of our families, and Willie's indifferent demeanor had crumbled visibly as they left. Willie's parents gave me sympathetic looks, an unspoken admission of their son's shortcomings. That night, as I lay in bed, the day's confrontations replayed in my mind, stirring a whirlwind of emotions: anger, disappointment, but also a burgeoning sense of empowerment. Willie's true colors had been revealed, making it clear that it was time for me to take control of my own life. The days that followed were tense, filled with unspoken words and strained silences. Willie attempted to maintain normalcy, but the air between us was thick with tension. During this time, I took to reflecting on my deep-seated unhappiness and the undeniable need for a change. The decision I was leaning towards wasn't easy, but it felt essential, like finally breathing freely after being suffocated for too long. One evening, as Willie nonchalantly flipped through TV channels, I approached him, folder in hand, my heart pounding but my resolve steadfast. "Willie, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady. He looked up, irritation crossing his features. "What now, Amy?" Taking a deep breath, I handed him the folder. "I want a divorce," I declared. Willie stared at me, a mix of disbelief and scorn etched across his face. "Divorce? That's absurd, Amy. You're blowing things out of proportion," he retorted. I shook my head, feeling a surge of empowerment wash over me. "It's not an exaggeration. I've thought long and hard about this. You've consistently prioritized Carol over me and Kathryn. I can't continue like this," Willie sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. "You think you can manage alone? Don't be naive, Amy." His words were intended to wound, but I stood my ground. "I'm not naive, Willie. I understand what this means, but I'd rather face uncertainty than continue feeling invisible in my marriage." He laughed coldly, a bitter sound that echoed in the tense air. "Good luck, Amy. You'll regret this once you realize how tough it is out there." His dismissal fueled my resolve. I felt my anger rise, not just at his words, but at the years of being sidelined. This moment, though fraught with challenges, marked a new beginning for me, a step toward reclaiming my life and my worth. Maintaining my composure, I firmly declared, "This is my decision, and I'm sticking to it." For a moment, it seemed Willie might argue further, but instead he just shrugged, a smug smirk spreading across his face. Fine, have it your way. But remember, I warned you, he said dismissively as he turned back to the TV, ignoring me once again. Amidst a whirlwind of emotions, fear was undoubtedly present, but more overpowering was the sense of liberation I felt. I was finally taking charge of my life, stepping out from the shadows. The next day, I began the legal process for divorce. The paperwork and legal procedures were daunting, but my resolve was firm. My parents and my brother Russell provided invaluable support, offering help and encouragement. As the process unfolded, Willie's true nature became increasingly apparent. He was dismissive and uncooperative, attempting to intimidate me into giving up, but I stood my ground, bolstered by my family's support and a growing sense of empowerment. As time passed, the cracks in Willie's facade widened. The charming, confident man I had married now revealed himself to be selfish and manipulative. His true self was laid bare for all to see. The divorce proceedings were arduous, but I approached each challenge with bravery. Each step forward was a testament to my newfound determination. I was no longer the woman who lay ignored and in pain on the kitchen floor. I was reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my happiness. The divorce process was exhausting, punctuated by Willie's continual attempts to undermine and belittle me. In our meetings, he would sneer and make derogatory remarks about my parenting and my future without him. However, his words did not defeat me. Instead, they fueled my determination to free myself from his toxic influence. "Enjoy your struggles, Amy," Willie taunted during one of our final meetings. "You'll soon see how good you had it with me." His arrogance was infuriating, but I remained composed. I'd rather face challenges every day than spend another moment with someone who has so little regard for his family, I replied firmly. Willie's smug demeanor briefly faltered, replaced by a flicker of anger, which he quickly masked with a scoff. My resolve was clear. I was moving forward, no longer tethered by his disdain. I could feel that my words had struck a nerve. On the day the divorce was finalized, I experienced a peculiar mix of relief and anxiety. I was finally free from Willie, but the path ahead looked formidable. However, as I stepped out of the courthouse, a surge of liberation swept through me, revitalizing my spirit. In the weeks that followed, Willie's life began to unravel. His neglectful behavior during our marriage and the news of our separation became hot topics among his workplace peers. Those who had once admired him now looked at him with a mix of pity and disdain. His charming facade had crumbled, revealing the pettiness and selfishness that lay beneath. The news of our divorce spread quickly through our community, thanks in part to my well-connected cousin. Willie, who had always been deeply concerned about his image and reputation, suddenly found himself the subject of whispered conversations and judgmental glances. Carol, too, was not spared from scrutiny. Her involvement in our marital issues became widely known, and friends and neighbors started to view her with suspicion and disapproval. The once solid bond she shared with Willie now appeared strained and uncomfortable. One evening, as I picked up Kathryn from school, I overheard a heated argument between Willie and Carol outside their house. Their voices were laden with blame and resentment. "It's your fault we're in this mess, Carol," Willie shouted, his frustration evident. "How dare you blame me? You're the one who couldn't keep your family together," Carol retorted, her voice thick with anger. Their public quarrel was a stark contrast to the united front they once displayed. The discord sown by their actions had finally borne fruit, and now they were dealing with the consequences. As I walked away with Kathryn, a sense of vindication washed over me. Willie and Carol were now experiencing the fallout of their selfish choices. It was a harsh lesson, but one that seemed justly earned. The challenges they faced were entirely of their own making. That night, as Kathryn slept peacefully in her room, I found myself by the window reflecting on the tumultuous past few months. The journey had been arduous, yet it led me to a place of strength and self-respect. I had stood up for my dignity and Kathryn's future. Though the road ahead was uncertain, I felt equipped to face it with a newfound confidence. In the wake of the divorce, life began to settle into a new, quieter, yet more fulfilling rhythm. The burden of my unhappy marriage had been lifted, giving way to a refreshing sense of independence. I embarked on rebuilding my life step by step, with Kathryn by my side. Securing a job was my priority. The gap in my resume, a result of years dedicated to motherhood, was a concern, but my resolve was firm. After several interviews, I landed a position at a small accounting firm. The firm, led by a supportive woman who valued working mothers, provided a flexible and understanding work environment. It was the perfect fit for me. Kathryn, too, adapted to our new life with the resilience only a child can muster. She began kindergarten, making new friends and throwing herself into her studies with enthusiasm. Her laughter and lively conversations brought joy and light into our home, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere of the past. Despite these positive changes, echoes of my past with Willie occasionally resurfaced. One afternoon, while dropping Kathryn off at school, I overheard a group of parents whispering, "That's her, Amy. Her husband left her because he couldn't stand being around her anymore," one of them said. Their words stung, but I held my head high. The gossip and judgment were small prices to pay for the freedom and peace I now enjoyed. Meanwhile, Willie's life continued its downward spiral. His pride suffered immensely, and his once flawless reputation was now visibly tarnished. I learned through mutual acquaintances that he had moved back in with his parents, a detail he desperately tried to keep hidden. This new chapter in my life, though marked by some painful reminders, was predominantly a testament to my resilience and the brighter future that lay ahead for Kathryn and me. Eventually, the truth about Willie moving back in with his parents became widely known. Carol's situation hadn't improved either. Her meddling in our marriage had alienated many of her friends, and the bond she once shared with Willie was now severely damaged. They barely spoke, their relationship strained by blame and regret. As for me, I found comfort in the steadfast support of my family. My brother Russell had moved closer to us, providing a constant source of strength and reassurance. My parents lavished Kathryn with love and affection, helping to heal the scars of the past. One day, while enjoying a quiet moment with a cup of coffee in my kitchen, I reflected on the journey I had endured, the pain, the struggle, and ultimately the liberation. It had all led me to this moment of tranquility. I hadn't merely survived, I had emerged stronger and more self-assured. My reverie was interrupted by the doorbell. When I opened the door, I found Willie standing there, a look of defeat etched across his face. "Amy, I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone," he said, his voice filled with remorse. His apology, though belated, validated my decision. "Thank you, Willie," I replied gently, "but it's too late. I've moved on." As I closed the door on Willie and the life we once shared, a profound sense of closure enveloped me. That chapter of my life had concluded, and a new one was beginning. In this new chapter, I was the author of my own story, free to shape my future as I saw fit. Kathryn's voice called out from the living room, and a smile spread across my face. I walked toward her, eager to embrace the life that lay ahead, a life brimming with possibilities and hope.